The courtroom doors opened with the soft groan of age, and every head turned, though none for the man they should have noticed. Tall, poised, and dressed in a sharp charcoal suit with a white pocket square folded just so, the man walked in with a kind of deliberate grace that didn't ask for attention, yet carried the weight of presence. A few seats back from the front row, he settled into the gallery, folding his hands in his lap like someone who had done this many times before. "Look at this guy," muttered Officer Ronald Maddox under his breath, nudging his partner beside him. "Who walks into court like that?" Officer Terry Slater replied, his voice low but laced with disdain. "Probably one of those smooth-talking, bleeding-heart public defenders. Thinks he's going to save the day." The man heard them. He didn't acknowledge it. His gaze remained calm, fixed ahead, not so much as a flicker of reaction on his face. There was a quiet command to his stillness, the kind forged through years of watching more than speaking. Outside, news vans lined the sidewalk. The case had stirred tension across the city, drawing murmurs of another injustice buried beneath conflicting stories and suspiciously missing evidence. At the center of it all sat 19-year-old Corey Langston, a freshman at Hamilton College, accused of resisting arrest and assaulting 2 police officers. The body cam footage that could have cleared things up had malfunctioned, both devices, allegedly. The official report from Maddox and Slater painted a story where Corey had been combative, erratic, and dangerous. No bruises on either officer, but just enough ink on their paperwork to warrant felony charges. Corey sat at the defense table, wrists tight in his lap, his gaze locked on a spot on the wall. He hadn't looked at the jury. Not once. His public defender, a tired man named Nathan Pierce, whispered something to him occasionally, but Corey barely nodded. Behind him, his mother, Denise Langston, whispered quiet prayers to herself, lips trembling with every exhale. She clutched her purse with both hands as if it were the only thing holding her together. The prosecution started strong. They painted Corey as a threat to public safety, citing an aggressive stance, failure to comply, and threatening gestures. The fact that he was walking home from study group and wearing earbuds was dismissed as irrelevant. Maddox took the stand first, his voice flat, rehearsed. "I feared for my safety," he said solemnly. "We gave multiple commands. He ignored them. When we moved to detain, he flailed, elbowed me in the chest. We had no choice." Slater echoed the same sentiments, word for word in some parts. Too clean, too perfect. But the jury listened, as they always did. When the defense took its turn, Pierce tried. He really did. He brought in a witness and neighbor who had seen the scuffle from a balcony, but she had poor eyesight and stumbled on details. He argued the lack of physical injuries on either officer. He questioned why the footage had disappeared. But the courtroom's temperature remained the same. Doubt lingered, and not in Corey's favor. Then came the recess. As people rose to stretch and chatter in hushed tones, the man in the charcoal suit stood quietly and approached the bench. Judge Helena Rodriguez glanced up, recognized him instantly, and leaned slightly forward. "Your Honor," he said in a voice that was both soothing and razor-sharp. "May I have a brief word with the court?" "Of course, Director Calloway," she replied. The murmurs rippled, then hushed. Maddox's eyebrows shot up. "Director," he whispered to Slater. Slater sat up straighter. "What the hell?" The man turned to face the courtroom. The name dropped with the weight of a brick. "My name is Julian Calloway," he said. "I serve as the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation." The oxygen left the room. "I came here today," he continued, "not to speak as the head of a federal agency, but as a black man in America. I came quietly, not to make a spectacle, but because I read this case file and I saw myself." Gasps fluttered like wind through the gallery. Denise Langston clutched her chest. Corey blinked, looked up at the man for the first time. "I saw a story I've seen too many times," Director Calloway said. "A young man criminalized before his voice was heard. Evidence missing. Testimony too polished. A system that speaks louder when the defendant has darker skin." He turned, slowly, his gaze falling on Maddox and Slater. "I've been stopped too," he said. "I've been followed in department stores, asked if I belonged in the neighborhoods I own homes in. I've had guns drawn on me while jogging in my own community. The only difference between Corey Langston and me is this suit and this badge." The room was still. "If the man you mocked today had worn a hoodie instead of a suit," Calloway said, "you would have dismissed him entirely. You've done it before. You did it today." Maddox looked away. Slater studied the floor. Turning to the judge, Director Calloway nodded. "Your Honor, I do not presume to interfere in the court's process. But I ask this courtroom and this jury to consider the pattern. Not just the incident, the pattern. Because this isn't about one boy. It's about how quickly we turn suspicion into guilt, and how slowly we admit we were wrong." Then, softer, he looked at Corey. "You are not invisible, son. You matter, and you are not alone." Silence, deeper than before. The judge called the jury back. Closing arguments were made. Short, almost mechanical now. The jury deliberated for just under 2 hours. The verdict, not guilty. Outside the courthouse, reporters flooded the steps, but Julian Calloway didn't stop to speak. He found Corey and Denise near a concrete pillar, both overwhelmed and crying. "You didn't have to do that," Corey whispered. "Yes," Calloway replied, resting a hand on his shoulder. "Yes, I did. Because one day, you'll need to do it for someone else." Officer Maddox handed in his badge later that evening. No announcement, no press. Just dropped it on the captain's desk and walked out. Slater was placed on administrative leave, pending a full review. The mayor's office, already under pressure, released a statement condemning the incident and vowing full transparency. Julian Calloway returned to D.C. quietly the next morning. He sat in his office overlooking the Capitol, the sun cutting across the marble columns beyond the window. He thought about every room he had ever entered where he was doubted before being known. Every meeting where his ideas were questioned before they were heard. Every time he had clenched his jaw and walked away for the sake of diplomacy. But not this time. This time, he had said what needed to be said. Respect, he knew, must never hinge on appearance. Justice must not depend on proximity to power. And the worth of a man must never measured by the color of his skin. Not everyone in that courtroom walked out changed, but some did. And sometimes he thought that's how revolutions begin, quietly, with one man who refused to stay silent. And in the age of echo chambers and viral headlines, sometimes the most powerful sound is a single voice speaking truth. That day it was his. Tomorrow it might be yours.